In this video, we will use again green and blue server. In the previous blog post, Distributed Queries in Monet, we have created green and blue server. We also have a video about the same subject, and we will use those servers also for this video here. So we will log into green server and then to blue server. Then we will talk about file loader function. This function is used to fetch data from files into Monet. In this example, we will use 5 files. First, we have CSV file. This file is using commas as separators, and it also has commas at the end of each row of data. And this is the only file that doesn't have file format extension like these other files. Then we have TSV file, which is using tabs, and it has double quotes around strings. And PSV file is using pipes, and it has a null. And then we have 2 compressed files. In this side of these compressed files, we have this PSV file. Now these files have to be on the server in order for this function to work, and this function will return virtual table. Now we don't have to specify delimiters, wrappers, and data types for these files. They will be deduced by the file loader function. Besides GZ compressed file format, we can also use LZ4, BZ2, and XZ. I will now show you the syntax for file loader function. It is a really simple function. It only has one argument here, and we can even omit the name of a function, so we can write our select statement like this. So we can select something from the CSV file. I will now go to terminal. We will first read from the CSV file. I will run this statement here, but we will get a message that file name extension is missing. So I will minimize this. I will find my file and I will add extension. Extension will be .csv, rename. I will then go back, and then I will run a statement that will use the new name with extension. I will run this, and we will get only one column. And this is the consequence of these commas at the end. So we have to remove them. So I will again minimize this. I will open my file, and I will delete these commas at the end. I will save this. I will close this. I will go back, and then again I will read from my file. And finally we will get the result that we have expected. I will now clean my screen. Next we will read from the TSV file. So I will run this statement here. I will run it, but double quotes will stay as a part of my strings. So we have to explicitly remove them if we want to. So I will run this other statement. Here I will use trim function to remove double quotes from strings. If I run this, this will fail because column names are case sensitive. So we have to place double quotes around our column name. So we have to run it like this. We have to place these double quotes to wrap our column, and only then our select statement will work, so we will get our strings without double quotes. I will now clean my screen. This time I will use PSV file, so we will read from PSV file, and we will get this result. But now we don't know whether this null is a string or it is really a null. So I will test that. I have prepared this other statement, so we will use isNull function to test the content of the latter column. So if I run this, I will get false. So this is not really a null, this is a string. I will now clean my screen. Then we will try to read from compressed file. So I have this statement here, I will run it, and this is successful. But if we try to read from the tape archive, so if we have a tape archive and then GZ, if we try this, this will not work. So we need to have just one file inside of our compressed archive. So we can conclude that this file loader function is not as versatile as copy into statement. We have already talked about copy into statement inside of this blog post. I will go back to terminal and I will clean my screen. We already saw that we can log in to Monet that is on some other computer. We saw how to create remote tables, and now we will see how we can ad hoc get data from tables that are on some other server that is computer. And for that, I will show you this syntax here, but we will not read now from the remote computer, we will read from local computer. So this syntax will also work on the local computer. We are using IP address of the local host, we are using port number of this server, this is the name of database, this is the name of schema, and this is the name of a table. And if I run this will work. Besides that, we can omit IP address and port number because they are default. So we can just skip them and this will also work. Now notice here that uppercase have to be respected in the name of the database, but the name of a schema and the name of a table has to be lowercase. We can also use a syntax that is using mappy : MonetDB. So we can use this syntax, mappy : MonetDB, or we can just use MonetDB. So if I run this will also work. I will now clean my screen. We will now read from the remote computer. Before that, pay attention that the blue server is opened and running. And then I will run this statement here. This time I'm using IP address of the blue server. This is port number of the blue server, and these are names of database, schema, and table on the blue server. So if I run this, I will get that table. Besides using this syntax with Monet, we can also use syntax with mappy : Monet. And again, this is a way to read from the remote blue server. I will now clean my screen. When we learned about remote tables, we used links that started with mappy : Monet. But I want to test, can we create remote tables with links that are starting just with Monet? So I will create one remote table inside of the green server that is pointing toward blue server. And for that, I will first jump to blue server. In here, I will set my schema to GB, and then I will create one simple table with the name test. I will now go back to green server, and in the green server, I will also set my schema to schema GB, and then I can create my remote table. So remote table will have name test, name of a database, database B, and name of a schema is the same as the current schema. We are using IP address of the blue server and port number. I will run this. This is successful, but we can only be sure that this is successful if we can read from this remote table and it is working. So this can work. I will now clean my screen, and I will also clean my screen inside of the blue server. From recent, Monet can connect to ODBC data sources. I will now jump to this web page and we will take a look at this diagram here. First, we have application that can use data from ODBC data sources, and on the other side we have three databases, and all of them are ODBC capable. They are ODBC capable because they have ODBC drivers. But our application will not connect directly to these drivers. Instead of that, connection will go through ODBC driver manager. So what is this driver manager? Well, driver manager is just like some policeman that will give us a guarantee that everyone here are following the same rules, that everyone here are following ODBC standard. So what is the purpose of the ODBC? Well, now we have standardized connection, and that means that this application can use any database that is ODBC capable. So this application can switch its database without any changes inside of the application. The first step now is to check, do we have this ODBC driver manager on our computer. So I will go back to terminal and I will open new tab because I want to run one command inside of the shell, and that command is ODBC inst. I will run it, and we can see that we do not have this driver manager. So I will install it. I will install a program with the name Unix ODBC. I will run this command. I will provide my password. I will say yes. We will wait a little bit. And now we can again run that command ODBC inst, and we can see that our program was successfully installed. I will now clear my screen, and then I will jump to this folder here. I will go to etc folder, and inside of it we will take a look for a file with the name ODBC in it. This is that file. This file was created now that we have installed our Unix ODBC. This file is currently empty, but we will use it later. I will now go back to terminal. I said that Monet can connect to any ODBC data source, but we will take this chance to connect to Monet through ODBC. So I will connect from the green server to blue server through ODBC. And for that I need a driver, so I will go here to shell and I will run this command. So this is driver for Monet, ODBC driver. I will run this. And now we have driver installed. Now I will jump to this folder. I will go to etc. I will find ODBC in it. This is the file that was created by ODBC driver manager. But now beside it, we also have this other file. This file was created by Monet ODBC driver, and this file is .empty. So I will open it. And inside of it, we can see that our driver is at this location. But this is not true. I will now jump to this folder here. I will go to this folder, then to lib, then to this folder, and here I will find my driver in this location here. So this location here is not the same as this location here. So we have to change this. We cannot do it directly because this file is protected. I will close it. I will go back to shell, and then I will open that file inside of nano editor. So I will use sudo nano. I will open that file. Then I will delete this link here, and instead of it I will paste correct link. So I will paste this. This is correct link. I will also do that here below. Then I will type Ctrl O. I will say enter, and then I will type Ctrl X for exit. I will exit, and now our file is changed. I will now clear my screen. I will go back here. For the next step, we will go to this etc folder, and we will open this ODBC ini file, and we will see here that the name of our driver is MonetDB. I will close this, and now we have to enter our credential inside of this ODBC ini file. And for that, we will go back to terminal, and then I will run this command to open that file inside of nano. Here I will paste some code. So these are credentials for our database. Here we can see that our driver is MonetDB. So this is how these credentials will be tied to our driver, and that is how we will create our connection. I will now type Ctrl O, and then enter, and then Ctrl X. And now we have everything, so we can connect to our database. And for that I will not use mclient, I will use ESQL. This is console application that was installed together with Unix ODBC program, and we can use this application to test our connection. So I will run this, and we are connected. And this is the same as we were inside of the mclient. So I will change my schema to schema GB, and then I will run my statement that will read from the factb table, and this is successful. So we can see how we can connect to Monet server through ODBC. I will clean my screen, and then I will go back to this tab. But I do not want to connect to Blue server through ISQL. I want to connect directly from mclient by using ODBC loader function. So I will go to this other tab. I will quit ISQL session, and then I will run this command from the shell. This is module that I want to install. So I will install this. We will wait a little bit, and then I will go back to this first tab. I will quit mclient, and then I will stop my database. I will use MonetDB stop database G. Why am I stopping this database? Because I want to change one setting of this database. First, we will read all of the properties of our database with MonetDB get all database G. And I'm interested in this property here, load modules. I want that module that I have just installed is loaded when we start this database. And to do that, I will change this setting by using this command. MonetDB set load modules equal to ODBC loader. So this is the name of a module for database G. So I will run this. And if I want to change this back, in that case, we just have to run a command like this one. So this is now just a comment. So we have to repeat our command, but without this ODBC loader, and then our setting would be returned to its default value. But we want our ODBC loader to be loaded. After this, we will actually just log into our server. And by doing that, our server will be running and our module will be loaded. So I just have to provide my password, MonetDB, and now we can use our ODBC loader function. I will clean my screen. We are now ready to test our loader function. I will paste here my statement. The name of a function is Proto loader, and then we should provide our ODBC string. If I run this, we can see how we can read from Blue server through ODBC. So what is this database B? If we go here to etc folder, and if we open our ODBC ini file, we will see here that the name of our credentials is database B. And we use that name instead of our string. I will now jump to this web page, and here we can see a schema. And this schema will explain how our function is working. So our function will connect our MonetDB ODBC loader component. This component will talk with ODBC manager. Manager will call our ODBC driver, and then driver will call Blue server. So everything we have done is on the green server, and that is how we can connect to Blue server through ODBC. Now, besides using a string like this one here, when we are calling our credentials from that ODBC ini file, we can also place all of the credentials inside of the string. So I will copy this statement here. I will go back to terminal. I will paste it here, and I will run it. And this will also work. It will give us the same result. It is also possible to use a file, a DSN file for credentials, but this is something that will work only on Windows. I will now go back to terminal, and I will clean my screen. I said that the result of loader functions is virtual table. Virtual table is a table that is not physically stored on Monet. For example, views, remote tables, and merge tables are all examples of the virtual tables. We will now see how we can transform virtual tables to more permanent structures. I will first run this statement here. So I will create new table, but I will use as select to fill this table with data from my CSV file. So I will run this, and then we can read from this table to confirm that our data is now inside of this table. Next, we will create one temporary table, but this time we will use Proto loader function, and we will read through ODBC string from the Blue server, and we will place this data into our new local temporary table. So I will run this. Again, we can read from this table. So our data was successfully fetched. I will now truncate this table. I will delete all of data inside of it, because we will now see how we can fetch data into existing table. And for that, we will use insert into statement. We will again use Proto loader function, and we will use ODBC string with all of the credentials. So I will run this. And again, like previous, I will read from this temporary table that was previously empty because I have truncated it. So I will run this, and this is also successful. I will now clean my screen. We already talked about copy from and copy into statements. I will go to this browser, and here I will show you a blog post about copy from statement, and here is a blog post about copy into statement. Then I will go back to terminal because I want to show you one more thing. But first I will create one sample table with 2 columns, and then I want to place some data inside of this table. And for that I will use copy into statement. So I will use copy into table from standard input. So how this works? Well, I will now run this statement, and then we will get more prompt. This means that Monet is expecting more data. And I will now type data that I want to be inserted into this table. So I will type 1 and then pipe. Pipe is separator, then A. And then I will press enter, then 2, then pipe, then B, then I will press enter. In the third row, I will not type anything, I will just press enter. And now 2 rows are inserted inside of this table. We can check that if we read from our sample table. So if we read from it, we will see our data inside of this table. There is also a version where we will declare how many rows we will type. For example, here we are saying that we will copy 2 records into. Now Monet knows that we only have 2 records. So I will run this, and again I will type my records. I will type 3 and then pipe and then C. Then I will type 4, then pipe, then D. But this time, because Monet knows that we only have 2 records, after I press enter, we will immediately see this message that 2 rows were affected. So we don't have to use this empty row to inform Monet that we don't have any more records. Like previously, we will read from our table to check whether this insertion was successful, and it was successful. I will now clear my screen. It is also possible to read from a table into standard out. So I will run this statement here. We will read from our table into standard out. But if I run it, I will get an empty table. Although this message says that we affected 4 rows, we will get empty table, and this is because of bug. If we go here to browser and then to this GitHub page, we can see that this bug was already reported, but it was not fixed. I will now go back to terminal, and we will now talk about thousand separator and decimal point. I will go here now to this CSV file, and here we can see a CSV file with some unusual numbers. These numbers are unusual because they are using underscore as thousand separator, and they are using star as a decimal point. And we want to read data from this CSV file. So I will go back to terminal, and then I will first create a new table. I'm creating a new table because I need a table that has a column of decimal data type. So I will create a new table, and then I will read from that CSV file into this table. And for that, I will use copy into statement. This is that copy into statement. And this statement is special because it is using decimal clause. So here we will declare to Monet that our decimal point is star and that our thousand separator is underscore. So I will run this, and we can test this by reading from top decimal table. So I will read from it, and we can see that our numbers are correctly recognized. Just want to tell you more that in Monet, default decimal point is dot, and there is no default thousand separator.